He has the power to create. In Genesis 1 and 2, it talks about him creating the world out of nothing. And as he spoke the words, things just came. So as he said, let there be light, there was light. Let there be trees, there were trees. Let there be animals, there were animals. He has the power to provide and do wonders. In John 2, verse 1 to 11, it talks about Jesus turning water into wine. There was a wedding at Cana, which Jesus was invited to, and they ran out of wine. And Jesus' mother told him to do something about it. So Jesus told them to grab the containers, fill them up with water, and Jesus turned the water into wine. Isn't that amazing?
Yes. Yes.
And that was the sweetest wine that they ever had, even better than the wine that they had that they ran out of. He has the power of doing the impossible. In Matthew 14, it talks about Jesus walking on water. Could I have someone read Matthew 14, verse 22 to 25? In John 11, it talks about the story of Jesus bringing Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus died and he was buried and put in the grave for how many days?
4 days.
Yeah. And on that 4th day, Jesus came to his tomb and said, Lazarus, come out. And then he did. And no other superhero could do that. No other superhero can bring something back to life. Only he can do that. He has the power over death. In John 20, it talks about Jesus' resurrection. Jesus was crucified and he died for how many days? And he was buried for how many days?
3 days.
Yeah, and on that 3rd day, he got up, he arose, the tomb was open, and he got out. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
No superhero could do that. If they died, they died. But Jesus can raise himself back to life. Now we're going to talk about some of God's sidekicks. Peter walking on water. Now this is the same story from when Jesus was walking on water. Peter asked Jesus if he could come to him, and Jesus said yes. So Peter started walking on water. And then as he took his eyes off Jesus, he started to sink. And then that's when the power deactivated. Because the power was coming from Jesus. In Acts chapter 16, it talks about Paul and Silas in prison. Paul and Silas were in prison praising and singing. And suddenly there was a huge earthquake. Their chains broke off. The gate went wide open. And yeah. Isn't that cool? Could I have someone read Acts chapter 16, verse 25 to 26?
But at midnight, Paul and Silas was praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's chains were loosed.
Peter in prison. In Acts chapter 12, it talks about the story of Peter in prison. Peter was chained to 2 guards, and he was guarded by 2 other guards in the front of the prison. And the whole church was praying for him without ceasing. And then suddenly an angel came and got him up, told him to put on his clothes, and the chains fell off. And as he was walking with the angel gates just started flying right open. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Could I? Yeah.
Verse 5 to 7. Peter was therefore kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. And when Herod was about to bring him out, that night Peter was sleeping, bound with 2 chains between the soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. Now behold, an angel of the Lord stood by him, and a light shone in the prison, and he struck Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise quickly, and his chains fell off his hands. Then the angel said to him, Get yourself and tie on your sandals. And so he did.
Jesus gave his powers to his disciples, and then that ended up Peter bringing Dorcas back to life. In Acts chapter 9, yeah, it talks about the story. Yeah. Peter, Jesus also gave the powers to his disciples, and now Peter's also healing a crippled beggar. And that's in Acts chapter 3, verse 1 to 10, but the main verse is verse 6. Could I have someone read that?
Then Peter said, Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give to you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk.
Yeah. I bet that man was happy today. Jesus is the same and today as he was during that time. Whatever burdens we have, Jesus has the power to help us or relieve us. He can provide, he can create if need be, he can recreate if he has to. What's your burden? Is someone sick? You can pray to God. Is it your marriage? Is it work? Jesus has the power in any situation. If someone's having trouble at school, is it you? Is it university? Do you have exams, tests? In James 1 verse 5, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all, without finding fault, and it will be given to you. And I hope you could share this message to someone. And anyway, and as you see, if you help someone, you could be a superhero for Jesus.
Amen.